What's up guys, hope everyone is doing well. In this video I'm going to be going over some updates for XYO, but the first thing I want to go over here quickly before I get into the charts is this video here of the co-founder Markus Levin making a comment about the potential launch of the XYO Layer 1 mainnet.
We are very excited about it. It's the launch is imminent. We're in testnet right now, and the mainnet is probably going to launch in Q3. There's no
So you can see there he said probably launch in Q3. Now, shouldn't necessarily expect it to launch in Q3 as we are currently in Q3 the beginning. So we have around 2.5 months or so if this mainnet for layer 1 will actually indeed launch this quarter or not. Best case scenario, hopefully that happens just to continue to see the further development and evolution of XYO into the layer 1 and really start to see all of the use cases and solutions that it provide as a evolving blockchain solution. So here, heading into the first chart, the 50-minute of making, I've made about 2 posts or so over the last number of days updating the 15-minute chart. Here you can see that as I mentioned, this 200 estimated moving average here, the YTMA, was acting as major support along this period right here. We have recently seen a deviation here with 2 bottoms here, seeing a double bottom. So far we've seen the reversal back above the 200 EMA, and it has been held for the last few hours here. The one other thing that I want to point out here is on the RSI. You can see the 618 level right here. Whenever XYO has a spike above that value, we can see it's been correlated with each of these more notable moves towards the upside. Going back to here, we can see when the RSI went above the 618 and really overextended towards its highest, around 90 or so. You can see it was correlated with these 2 moves, or 1 move, depending upon how you view it, right here, constituting the most major move that XYO has seen recently, going up to almost a penny and a half at this point. So looking out for that. It's something I'm looking out for, to see the RSI have another spike back above this. Potentially, maybe we'll just see another retest here. Maybe we'll find some resistance around here again. Maybe it'll be a small move. Maybe XY will continue to range. Maybe we'll come down a bit lower. Perhaps could test the 800 estimated moving average here, which sits at around right almost at a penny on the dot. Right now, here moving into the daily, we can see that the vector zone that I had pointed out here, this box being in yellow, denoting a buy zone according to the yellow, the increasing bullish volume vector candles that I have been pointing out of the pattern here that goes all the way back to the beginning of the bull run, or here for XYO here at this low here, fast forwarding to here, most recently here, and then there's been a few peppered throughout these zones afterwards. But again, each of those times we've seen after 70% or more retracement, we see these yellow vector candles printed. It has led to this move here as 200%, and so far we're seeing what I believe could potentially be this ascending double bottom here, very so much reminiscent of what happened here. We saw this low, this second low, and even similar to, looks a little bit more apparent on the higher time frames, but this right here as well. Also seeing them increase in terms of duration as well over time. But right now we can see here, zooming in on the this micro, the shorter term resistance here on the daily, we've seen Bitcoin break it. It's broken above all of the EMAs so far, with the recent, this most major candle here that wicked all the way up to around a penny and a half. Closed above the 200 EMA. You see here, zooming in, that it's roughly holding the 200 EMA right now. Could potentially come down and test somewhere around the 800 EMA at around, again, see really not much more movement than what is already done, just somewhere around 1.1 cents. The 50 EMA sits somewhere at around right at a penny. So again, like I said on that 50-minute chart, potentially moving down to the 800 EMA, closer to right at a penny on the dot. We could see that, it could be some quick wicks towards the downside, or it could be a full-on candle close closer to that. But for right now, we could just be seeing the retest of this resistance here, which essentially has already been met. Again, we might just see some more ranging around a little bit above 1 penny, until I think what's quite likely is we'll see a quick move perhaps up to here, this purple zone at around 2 cents that I've been pointing out as key horizontal resistance for a few months at this point. Might see a spike up to here, see some ranging, find some support, and then continue to go higher. Might see again some brief rate ranging here back at the prior local peaks at around 3.5 to 4.5 cents or so. Find some support here, and then continue to move higher towards the prior all-time highs of around, as a range, somewhere around like 6, 7, 8 cents, pushing even higher, ideally, into price discovery over the next few months. If we look here at the weekly chart, what I mainly want to point out for an update on this chart here is this uptrend zoned here on the weekly. So far, it's acted as support for this first double bottom here, and what could be this second double bottom in a form of, like I pointed out on the daily chart, where we're seeing these kind of humps that form like double bottoms here, kind of as these connector accumulatory points between each of these. Again, you can see these moves that we see here could potentially here with the indication be moving again here into this next move upwards towards prior all-time high here around 8 cents or so, towards the wicks, or the candle closes rather, actually. This is, yeah, so that would be the wick high somewhere around 8.3 cents. The candle close all-time high was somewhere around 6.3 cents. Like I said, 6, 7, 8 cents is a nice range for retesting those prior all-time highs, and then continuing to move higher towards somewhere around like 12, 13, 14 cents, maybe even upwards towards 23 cents or so for our first target of the alt season proper, in the sense of where a lot of the times alt season is used to refer to the parabolic portion, as opposed to the portion where we see here the bottoming out and the accumulation leading in here into the expansive bull market period, where it starts to expand here towards the upside, building up all this volume and this volatility until it finally reaches this point here where it really just lets all that pressure release towards the upside. Now we can see that with the candle close resistance, the current weekly candle is above so, and with the wick resistance, we can see that the current candle is wicked right up to that trend there as well. So this could be, again, further affirming a reversal here to the upside, seeing alt season proper begin, not only for XYO but for Ethereum, Cardano, and all the other altcoins at large here. With the fact that we're breaking the candle close resistance, we're seeing the wick of that same candle hit the wick resistance, could just again be indicating this is just the early moments before a major move here up towards the upside, where again staying the same for quite some time. Like I already pointed out here, this first target zone that I have deduced and derived for various means, which I went over a little bit more elaborately in past videos over the last number of months. But here, the all-time high range here is around 50 cents to $2.30, with the sweet spot being somewhere more around like 89 cents, around like $1, $1.20 or so, somewhere right here, right in the middle. As for when, in terms of time, we'll see XYO top out or alt season generally end. Again, it all really depends upon what Bitcoin is going to do. If Bitcoin tops out later into this year, alt season and altcoins in general will probably top out later. So like Q4, probably later half of Q4, especially if Bitcoin tops out like late Q3 or early Q4. So the later for Bitcoin, the later for altcoins. So if Bitcoin's topping out sometime Q4, we'll likely see a lot of the altcoins top out. The early runners, sometime closer to Bitcoin, so probably late Q4, or for most of them, probably closer to Q1, or just sometime within Q1 of 2026. For example, I mean, this ends right here. So this period right here is December of 2025, when Bitcoin could potentially be hitting somewhere around $1. And then this here extends all the way out to around February of 2026 right here. So again, it all just really depends upon Bitcoin, again, generally speaking. If we look at the last bull run for XYO, again, comparing it here with Bitcoin on the bottom, we will see that Bitcoin here is topped out at 64K, being the more structural all-time high. And really, XYO, you can see here, just really began its bull run. This had its first leg here, and then it ranged sideways for quite some time, and then had this final move up towards the end of 2021 as Bitcoin was really kind of fizzling out here, went to 69K, really just, for all, essentially speaking, obviously it was about, $4,000 higher, so, but I mean, it was essentially not really doing anything new. And like I said, a lot of on-chain data and other things validate here, this being the structural all-time high for 64,000. And this was kind of common for a lot of altcoins as well, where we saw them go up. They made their first peak around when Bitcoin was sitting 64K, then they ranged for a bit and they continued to go significantly higher, whereas Bitcoin essentially just here went sideways. And given that, again, we could expect, let's say, I mean, if Bitcoin tops out sometime around like late September, October, November, we could expect here XY to top out around like December, which would be right here, maybe even January, February of 2026, which should be, again, somewhere right here along these lines. In general, I'd probably say at earliest late Q3, more reasonably sometime Q4, but then extending it maybe sometime Q1 of 2026. If you look here at the 2-week chart again, as I mentioned last time around, there's the inside pitchfork here drawn like so here, continuing to find support within the all-time uptrend here on the RSI, where we can see here it's just continuously lifted Bitcoin's price action throughout each of these local lows leading into all-time highs. We could expect once we see here the 786, every time this was broken, this has corresponded with sizable moves here in the price for XY. Here, the first move of the current bull market, second move here, and then what I would believe here the third and final, which would be correlative to the parabolic portion of the current bull run. So whenever we see this RSI here get back above the 786, which would be somewhere around like 52, 53 at this point, we could reasonably expect that we would probably see correlating with that big XYO here moving closer towards around that 2-cent range, retesting the prior local highs. Ideally, obviously, best case scenario, finding support here and continuing to move higher towards the green zone that I pointed out on the prior chart. Again, that is also correlated with, again, we see the stock RSI here kind of finding the same horizontal zone here as well that I pointed out. The MACD is as oversold as it's been since the lowest lows of the bear market, so that's a good hidden bullish divergence like sign to see. And same thing here for the RVI. We're just waiting for it to continue to move higher here and break the value of around 60. That last time around indicated the major bull market here for XYO. Have yet to see that so far. Looking here at the ASO, these converging symmetrical triangles that I pointed out. Again, this is best using correlation with that inside pitchfork pattern on the RSI. As you can see here, we're also finding a bounce here, such as here, 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 and then correlating to the pattern here with this prior one. Each and every single one of these times we see Bitcoin find these major bounces here and continuing to grow and towards the upside, following with price appreciation. Now, if we look here at the Bitcoin dominance to provide a general sentiment for just altcoins at large outside of XYO, we can see here on the 2-weekly chart that this is the first time that we're seeing here this uptrend tested. Right now the candle's just a tad bit actually below it. There's 2 days left. At this point, I think for a number of reasons, we can see here this descending resistance zone going all the way back to around June of 2017 coming into effect here. We're seeing also this line up with the 382, the inside pitchfork of this choppy sideways zone we've seen the dominance in since, again, around May, June 2017. Here we see another inside pitchfork drawn on the RSI here, drawn from here from this high to the low to high, and we can see that the RSI here has been fizzling out. It's a little bit more apparent on the weekly. For the first time, we've seen a form of an exaggerated bearish divergence here on the 2-weekly RSI, as going all the way back to around March of 2023, leading here up to around December 2024. There have yet to been really any notable outside of like right here from around November 2023 to May of 2024. There was another exaggerated bearish divergence, but obviously we continue to trek higher here. There's also this horizontal zone that's going to be important. So we can see the RSI is coming down it. This has acted as support since April 2023, which would go really all the way back to the beginning of this uptrend here, leading into the descending resistance zone. And we also see that the let's see, this is the 236 here on the inside pitchfork. You can see that this was acting as support leading into the finality here of this exaggerated bearish divergence, and the RSI has gone below it. So that could also again be at a very early indication, also finding confluence with the fact that the 2-weekly candle looks like it's probably going to close below the uptrend so far. This same uptrend is where it found a bounce back in December, leading into the around 65-66% peak of recent, going back to June. So again, we are seeing the further fizzling out of the Bitcoin dominance here, we're finding again major resistances on various different fronts on the price here. Obviously on the RSI as well, you can see the last time around was the 786 was the peak. We reached roughly the 786 around here. Again, there could still be potentially one more bounce. I mean, it could be a very similar situation to around December of last year, and perhaps that would mean that alt season is delayed again. Maybe it actually is dead. I say that not really to give any validity to it, but just to throw the possibility out there. I don't particularly think that that is the case here, but it is obviously so a possibility. But right now, mainly looking out for a further move of the RSI below this horizontal zone to see the confirmation of a 2-weekly candle close below this uptrend support here is going to be very important. And by the looks of the way that altcoins are performing over the last few weeks, the way that Bitcoin furthering its price appreciation and price discovery, it seems to be more likely than not that this is the final fizzling out here leading into the full. We'll see probably some sort of pretty steep drop. I would say at least probably down to at least 50% if this alt season is going to be weaker, in the sense that due to the saturation of the alternative cryptocurrency space with so many useless coins, meme coins, or useless blockchain solutions that actually provide a use case but that are dying off, and the various other coins that are not particularly worthwhile. We could again just see a weaker alt season this time, in the sense that not that the altcoins that will run are not going to perform as well as past instances, but in the sense that there will just be a smaller pool or subset of the total altcoin space run to the degree of at least like 10-20x or even significantly higher this time around. But the major thing here is also really to look out for a drop to around 50%. And if we start to see the Bitcoin dominance again come back down to this low range here, then again we could see an even stronger alt season, and maybe we will see the vast majority of the alt space run despite that just oversaturation of just nonsensical and useless coins littered throughout the space. If we look here at the total 3 chart, the crypto market here excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, so just about as altcoin as you can get here for trading view charts, we can again see Bitcoin's been in an uptrend, altcoins have been moving up. So obviously here we're going to see this chart moving up as well, and it's currently retesting the zone here that has been resistance horizontally speaking here since around obviously the November peak for Bitcoin, altcoins, everything essentially. So seeing this break here at around somewhere around like 1.15 trillion, seeing a candle close on the weekly or higher, even down in the daily at around that value of 1.15 to 1.16 trillion will likely indicate the kickoff of a move here. I think at least probably somewhere towards here around 3.5 trillion, potentially as high as 5 trillion, maybe even higher, but I would have to say that 3.5 to around 5.5 trillion is a nice Goldilocks zone, a nice reasonable zone to look for. I would say at highest maybe pushing like 6, 7, 8 trillion. Maybe if things really just go buck wild and we're about to see a major parabolic explosion that just really nobody is prepared for, perhaps we'll see the entire altcoin or the entire cryptocurrency space, including Bitcoin and Ethereum, push 15, 20 trillion, and we'll see the altcoin space push closer towards like approximately 10 trillion or so, maybe a little bit higher than that. Because I mean, obviously at the end of the day, who knows what is going to happen, and I try to stay reasonable and not overshoot things and not necessarily undershoot things. So at the end of the day, we might go far higher than what I try to present as what I believe to be a reasonable case. And again, lastly here, I just want to quickly go back over this chart where we see here Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, XYO. Again, with the temporal trend, we can see here at the leftmost side of the charts, we see the pink region. That's the brunt of the bear market. Then we transition into purple. That's going to be the accumulation zones where the bear market is starting to fizzle out a bit. Obviously, we can see here for like Cardano and XYO, they continue to go lower here, while Ethereum was going higher and Bitcoin was going lower as well, but I would not necessarily say going as lower drastically so compared to like XY or Cardano. But generally here we see again brunt of the bear market, accumulation zones, and then we see the first move here in yellow, second move here in blue, and then here the third and final move here in green. And it is this green zone here that is going to be acting as what most people think about as alt season. Again, we'll be see that typification of alt season predominantly being the parabolic period. It's where we see that price discovery, those where we start to see those major gains towards the upside. Whereas for all of you that have been in this space for many years at this point, know how, especially even for those longer, just having experienced past bull runs and knowing how miserable or agonizing this one has been, and just how Bitcoin's been performing well. It's been in price discovery, but altcoins haven't even been, outside of like Solana and a handful of other ones that I'm not even aware about, being in price discovery. Where here we see with Ethereum, Cardano, and XYO, and most of the other altcoins have not even entered price discovery yet, and they've been in this stage of here where we see this accumulation zone here for these three altcoins. Then again, we enter the first run of the overall bull market here, marking the beginning here. Ethereum is expanding here to the upside. Again, we see Cardano gradually expanding here to the upside. And same thing here for XYO, gradually expanding towards the upside. We're seeing Bitcoin on its final thrust, and this is historically when, with some caveats and some nuances obviously here and there because of how different this run has been compared to the last ones. This is historically, generally speaking, where we start to see the altcoin space, everything outside of Bitcoin, really ramp up that volatility and lead into the price discovery portion of alt season at its greatest extent, factoring in, again, the bear market low here, leading into these first moves and also into these subsequent moves here as well. And then lastly, I want to go over let's see here, a Bitcoin chart, just because I was thinking about making this, just making a whole new video for Update Bitcoin, but I really still feel like there's too much else for me to talk about that I didn't really go over in the last video. But this is something I found within the last like 3 days or so. Very interesting, and also just generally will further affirm, XYO obviously being in a longer term uptrend as well for the broader altcoin cryptocurrency space as well. But the pattern of the trend here is where we can see each of these these orange arcs here rather for Bitcoin, where we started a low, go to a high, then go to a low. Each of these is actually connected to some sort of local low into an all-time high here, would being the end of cycle 1 of June, beginning of phase 1 of cycle 2, leading into the bear market low of phase 1 of cycle 2 in December. And then here we see again another local low leading into end of phase 1, also the beginning of phase 2 of cycle 2, December 2013, leading into the bear market low of phase 2 during January 2015. And then we just continue to rinse and repeat, where we see local low leading into a cyclical all-time high, and then here into a bear market low. Again, we just see the same thing repeat here and here. And it's paired with hidden bullish divergences each and every single time from the beginning of these price arcs to the end of the price arcs. If you compare them to what the RVI is doing, you see these hidden bullish divergences every time that here you can see each and every single time indicated the bear market lows all the way beginning from November 2011 throughout each of these phase 1 and phase 2 lows here. And this would here project each of these arcs here this one was approximately 20 bars, this one was approximately 40, this one here is also approximately 40, this one here was approximately 60, and given the trend of increasing, we can expect this one here to at least be 60, potentially pushing 70 to 80. So that would further bringing out and extrapolating the trend here would put the upcoming bear market low, the first low in the overall accumulation range, somewhere like end of 2026, early 2027, if it extends towards that 70 to 80 bar price arc, because as I said, they're extending as time goes on, then that could potentially push the first low of the bear market of the overall accumulation zone, if so, towards quarter 4, maybe late quarter 3, but just generally end of 2027. And again, according to the model that I use, the upcoming bull run should be something, or bear run rather, should be something along the lines of what happened back here in phase 2, because what we've been seeing here in this entire portion leading up to the upcoming all-time high, this is phase 1 of cycle 3, whereas phase 1 of cycle 2 was this portion right here. And we're just seeing a repetition here, in a way, kind of like a feedback loop. It's almost as if this first phase 1 here of cycle 2 was fed back into the equation, so to say, for whatever generates the specific price action of Bitcoin in the sense of a feedback loop, and then it spat out here phase 1 of cycle 3 Same structure, but just varied across time because it's taking longer to play out, and also the bear run and the bull run of so are not as bearish or bullish, respectively speaking. And we can see here that the upcoming all-time high again would be somewhere around, we look here at the RVI, the last time that the RVI was here, currently it's at 58, the last time that it was at 58, and then eventually went into the oversold region, which is around 86.5 and higher. You can see here with each of these turquoise dots, there's always been two peaks going all the way back here, January of 2011 to June of 2011. Again, there's clearly, you can see here, always been two peaks. Bitcoin has yet to see two peaks during this bull run. So if this is going to be further validated, then we will see another peak above 86.5. And what I was saying was the last time that the RVI was at 58 was back in November 2023. And the other criteria for this is that it had to move back above 86.5. So the last time Bitcoin on the RVI was here at 58 and then moved upwards towards above 86.5, there was a 118% approximately speaking move. So if we see that happen once again from where Bitcoin currently is, that would take the price all the way up to around $227,000 for the upcoming all-time high. And that further reinforces the Fibonacci extension here of phase 1 bear market of cycle 2, phase 2, cycle 2, this bear market, and here again rinsing and repeating phase 1 of cycle 3. Each time there's always been the all-time high at the end of each of these phases in proximity to the 272, and the 272 is also in proximity to 227,000. That's also specifically the value that I've been emphasizing for probably over a year at this point. Again, who knows if that's going to happen, but there are plenty of things, as I've gone over plenty of times in past videos, that really just point to somewhere around like 200 upwards towards like 230K for the all-time high zone. And again, as always, could go far higher. Maybe I'm going to be totally wrong. Maybe the people speaking about 300K, 500K or higher Bitcoin this time around for the current bull run will end up being correct. And if so, potentially you might see XYO here go far higher than $2.30 being the uppermost bound of the current all-time high zone that I have up here, which is definitely possible. I mean, Bitcoin, or rather XYO here, has a circulating supply around 13 to 14 billion, which is relatively low. So in terms of that and market capitalization, XYO could reasonably go far higher than $2.30. I mean, at least 2x that towards like $5 or $8 is still reasonable, but all things considered, I really feel like a nice zone around 50 cents to $2.30, with a sweet spot around $1 being most reasonable for an all-time high. But that was all that I wanted to go over and update in this video. So as always, none of this is meant to be financial advice, but all of that being said, as always, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.